Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasevich.
And surprise, it's not Christian, it's Jim, because we're doing things a little differently today. But let me bring Christian on and welcome to Social Chatter. Hey, Christian, how's it going today?
Doing great. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. And I know you're doing a little bit of traveling. So once again, we're showing the flexibility of StreamYard by I'm actually running the show from Christian's dashboard. I know there's some talk about they're going to soon be rolling out the ability for you to have a kind of a co-producer and give them the ability to access your stuff. Excited about that. But we got a lot to talk about this week, Christian.
We do definitely, and I think, by the way, I want to apologize to everybody who thinks we're going to be getting Nicole on this week. She was a very late scratch, literally just maybe 30, 40 minutes ago. So it's just Jen and myself, but we have a lot of fantastic topics we want to talk about with you this week in terms of social media. And I want to kick things off, if you're good, Jim, with these Facebook fan subscriptions. So do you want to tell people like what's going on here? I mean, okay, so Facebook's got fan subscriptions. What are they? How do they work? Who can use
Yeah, in
them?
fact, let me pull that up for folks so we can show them a little bit of what's going on there. And I just got to get my right. There we go. Yeah, so Facebook is always trying to find a way to create a way for folks to monetize their business. Has now coming up with this thing called Facebook Fans, but there's really a lot to unpack here because not only uh, do they provide you some potential great monetization tools, but there's a lot to qualify in order to do that. And so I was looking through this as we were getting ready to go on. And so
Mhm.
I was looking at my page as an example because it really kind of gives you an idea of what you have to do. First of all, if you go into this, it'll tell you if your page is eligible or not to be there. And as you can see right now, I'm not eligible, and so there's some different ways in here. There's what they call the in-stream ads, but to do that, you have to have 10,000 followers. And you
Mhm.
also have to have 30,000 1-minute views on your videos that are at least 3 minutes long. So not there either. You have the brand's collaboration manager. That maybe is a little bit more possible, but you got to get to 1,000 followers there. And then you've also just got to have this going back to fan subscriptions, 10,000 followers as well. So that's, definitely some potential hurdles there. I mean, what do you think, Christian?
Here's the thing. On the surface, I think Facebook fan subscriptions make a lot of sense, but at the same time, I sort of feel like this is a bit of a bait and switch. People can get fan subscriptions, but there's some pretty strict requirements just to get those. And I mean, here's the thing, the whole point of this is so that you, as a business owner, can generate revenue from using Facebook. And yes, you can run ads, but you have to outlay money to obviously run those ads and then make sure they're hitting the right target, which might mean you need to spend more money. And so I was kind of hoping that fan subscriptions would be, maybe they would lower that bar a little bit more to where people could get started, because I think part of it is this, and I just got off a conversation with someone as well. They were talking about like, hey, they run a website, and then we talked about uh, whether they should be blogging, and I said, hey, you should be doing this quite frequently. And they said, well, I don't see the value in doing it because I'm not getting anything from it. I'm not generating revenue necessarily from that. And I see that with the same thing with fan subscriptions. It's great that these are out there. They're going to help some people. However, the way that they're structured, it's not going to help a lot of people because they set Facebook up and they think that it's this gold mine that's going to drive a lot of revenue for their business. And I don't think that's the case, unfortunately. Um, so that's a big thing. And then the other thing also is they are increasing the stars feature as well. The stars feature, by the way, is also another way for creators to be able to generate revenue, but it's not available to everyone as well.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
And I think, yeah. And I guess in one aspect, maybe the idea is if you're a creator, now it's kind of putting you into that boat like, oh, if I really want to take advantage of these features, I need to grow my following. And I think that, when you look at things that are going on with some of these other platforms, as an example, TikTok, people are creating content and quickly getting followers. And so I could see where, there's definitely a real possibility to be like, well, do I really want to spend my time trying to have to meet all these gates just to get
right.
to that point?
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, can you tell people where can they go about, like, if they want to actually view if they're eligible? Is there a certain page you went to get there?
Yes, I'm gonna add it here. So I went to the Facebook for Creators, page, and they've actually got an article on there under tools, and this is where, you can literally it showed me all the pages that I'm connected to, and I was able to, I could go and check other pages that I'm managing, but I went and
Hmm.
checked my page, and, like I said, it shows right here where I'm falling short. And even as you said, right, stars is an invite only thing. So,
Yeah.
and I actually recently bought some stars for, uh, so that I was able to give some stars to a page that I support the work they're doing. So this could
Mhm.
be a great idea, the stars, especially for some of these nonprofits that maybe have a larger following to get some support. I don't know that you get a lot of money per star per se, but I guess it's still something maybe nice for people to take into account. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, and and people can, they can earn what, a couple dollars per user. I mean, but keep in mind, Facebook's also going to be keeping a percentage of this. They're going to be keeping, I think it's 30% actually.
Hmm.
So definitely something you want to pay attention to.
Right, right. So, what do you want to move on to next, Christian?
Well, actually, was there more you wanted to cover on this? I mean, they obviously, they're rolling out. I don't know if you have the link. Can we drop the link in the comments, maybe, about the, like, letting people check
Yes,
eligibility? I know they
yes.
can sign up
I will
here
do
for, like,
that.
the creators program. But in addition to that, so okay, so they got fan subscriptions, a way for you to monetize your presence on Facebook through the people that are viewing your content. But you do have to meet requirements. Stars, again, you do have to meet requirements for that one as well. They're also rolling out some additional tools to help you manage your Facebook presence more, and that's in the Facebook Creator Studio. In addition to that, they're also rolling out Instagram Creator Studio as well, or basically it's Facebook Creator Studio or Creator Studio, however you want to look at it, but Instagram Creator Studio, which will give you the ability to log into Creator Studio using Instagram credentials and give you access to the brand collabs manager. So if you're in Facebook, on your Facebook page, under your settings, you have the collabs manager as well there.
I
So
I
definitely
actually
something
I
to check
actually
in.
like that, Christian, because it now allows us to do some things on desktop with Instagram that we couldn't do before. It lets you schedule some stuff. It would be nice to maybe see them add the capability for stories through
Hmm.
Creator Studio. I think that's the one thing that's still kind of missing. I mean, you can upload to your Instagram TV and to your feed, but it does not let you do stories at this time. I think that would be nice if we could actually schedule stories, but not something that they've rolled out yet.
That would, yeah. And for the most part, I mean, yeah, for people that want to schedule stories, they are going to have to use a third party tool, unfortunately, for something like that. Okay. So, and I will say this, I mean, we've got a lot more we're going to put in the blog post on the Facebook creator, or sorry, the Facebook fan subscriptions feature. As Jim mentioned, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, it's not just, hey, fan subscriptions, it's fan subscriptions. There's lots of types of ads that Facebook's actually adding. These are all playing under the, guise of, like, you can actually generate revenue for your business through some of these different features. But we'll make sure we put those in the blog post. Okay, Jem, where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about something that YouTube is doing, which I think is actually another interesting thing. They're updating their analytics, and I don't know if you want to share that screen or if you wanted me to share that screen.
Feel free to go ahead and share that one, actually, if you have it.
I do. Let's see here. Yeah, so YouTube is got a new analytics overview summary to help creators. Reason I find this interesting is there have been some third-party tools of late. TubeBuddy, I know there's a couple others you may be familiar with, Christian, that kind of tell you an idea of like how your video is performing, ways to improve it. So now YouTube is coming out with their own. So this kind of goes back to, we seem to see this trend of these platforms creating their own ways to give you things that you can see people are asking for by the growth of third-party tools, which I think in the bigger picture, they're trying to bring people back and stay in their ecosystem. I mean, what do you think, Christian?
I think from an analytics perspective, I like the fact that they're giving users more tools to be able to understand their content, to be able to understand, what is and isn't working, where they're actually getting their main traffic from, for example, where they're getting the views from. And so, here's the thing: if you're not a data junkie, then if you're not a data junkie, like, you're going to look at it and be like, well, I just want the numbers. And this actually is where I think that this actual chart, I mean, it looks pretty useful to let people know where they're getting their traffic from. I mean, and here's the thing: if I'm a YouTube creator, I want to make sure that I'm not obsessively looking at my analytics, but I'm looking at them on a monthly basis. Maybe I'm jotting them down. I'm looking at the growth, for example. Where there are certain pieces of content that are generating more views, for example, or there's certain ones that were generating views and are no longer generating views. So I would say I like that they're going to work on this. I partly think, though, that if I'm a user, I mean, should you? Here's your thought or question for you: should YouTube be lowering? Should they be lowering the bar and making it where it's easy for people to be able to understand their analytics, or really is that kind of what the user should be understanding themselves? What do you think?
I would say it's a combination, because the thing we run into, right? And this is part of the reason why we launched our podcast recently, Launch Your Live,
Yeah.
about live
Mm-hmm.
streaming, is as much as we want to think that people are going to take the time, they're not always going to have the time. And
Right.
so if I provide it to you so that you can find it, right, this I think is helpful. Uh, and then, but if you want something that's more robust, that's maybe where, you go out and you get these additional tools, because some people just are, I mean, I think the truth of the matter is you have to look at your numbers. You said it earlier, Christian. You got to be checking to see if these things are working. So I think it's good that they're adding it, because I think especially early on, sometimes people make decisions based on, like, they have monetary constraints, especially right
Right.
now. So
Mm-hmm.
if this helps them get to the point where they can, grow revenue, I mean, because, YouTube is one of those channels that if you really can get your growth going, you can monetize. I'm not going to say you're going to get rich overnight. So don't go out and start a YouTube channel today thinking you'll be rich tomorrow. But for those businesses that it makes sense for, creators it makes sense for, yeah, I think this is a good thing to have as just part of the standard program.
So I like your point there. I mean, the fact that you do need to spend time looking at your analytics. And here's the thing, and I can't impress upon people enough. It's the fact that you need to spend the time looking at it, and don't be afraid of it. So, for example, like, if you're like, you need to be, in a way, you need to be honest with yourself. So you're not necessarily going to be, getting a ton of views on your content. Um, and so what I mean by that is, like, okay, you're not going to get a lot of people viewing your content necessarily. So if you look at your numbers and they're not doing very well, you need to be working on things to improve that. And that could be, let me go to my website, or let me go to my YouTube channel and optimize the content. For example, let me test out different thumbnails. Let me see where I actually rank for a lot of this. You can use tools like TubeBuddy, for example, and gather this information. But you also don't need to, like, if your numbers suck, honestly, like, if they're not good, you need to spend the time looking at the content and saying, well, I'm not just going to go through the motions. It's not working. Clearly, it's not working. I just need to be honest with myself and say it's not working. That's the key thing, I think, there. So, what else do you want to talk any more about YouTube's analytics overview tool, Jim?
Now let's go to this next thing, because like you said, we want to respect people's time. So something that we know a lot of people have been clamoring for is StreamYard has now introduced mobile hosting. Now,
Yes.
I actually tried this out with my
Okay.
iPhone, and it worked, fairly well, fairly easily. I've also played around with it a little bit on my iPad. But here's a couple points. First of all, you can't screen share. Sure, I can bring guests on, that sort of thing, but you and I, right? We stress this a lot. As much as it might be nice to go live from a mobile device, you're
Hmm.
limiting your capability, especially as a producer of a show, to do some of these things that really sometimes set you apart. You're not going to bring in a virtual camera on a tablet. You can't even, at the moment, because I was playing around with it, I can't even use an external camera on my
Yeah.
iPad at the moment.
Hmm.
So I'm having to use that camera that's on the side of my tablet if I'm trying to connect with my audience. So it's got its places. I would say it's probably better if you want to do like say an event where you're out somewhere remote, that
Hmm.
you can put this on the tripod, use the back camera, and I do like the fact that you can put the banners in there, so you can also share those viewer comments from
Hmm.
the tablet. That's a great thing. But if you're going to have multiple people coming in, especially if you're hosting this show, just remember you're going to get into bandwidth issues and things like that. So I'm definitely interested to see how people use this. Um, I do think it's a nice feature to have. I definitely see some utility in using it, but I would still warn you if you're live streaming, don't just automatically think that, oh, I'm just going to do everything on mobile because you're going to find yourself running into some challenges. I mean, even things like your audio, headphones, things of that nature. Now you're going to end up having to add a bunch of things hanging off of your device, and it could also create some battery issues. What do you think?
I will say this. I love the fact that StreamYard is adding mobile hosting, and they're adding the whole 10-person support thing. You can bring 10 people on screen. But keep in mind, I mean, it's, live video on mobile does not work for the most part. Just because you have a mobile device, for example, one of the big things with live streaming, and people say this all the time, they tell you not to use Wi-Fi. They tell you to plug in over Ethernet. And the reason is because you get a constant connection. If you're using a mobile device, it works great if I'm just going to join and I'm on for like small amounts of time, but it doesn't work very well overall, for the most part, because it does not keep up, can't keep up with the speed that it needs to be able to run that production. So I would say this, I use it in a pinch. I'm glad I have it, but it's not something I'm going to produce from mobile at the moment until things get much better. So
Right.
I love that topic, and I love the fact that, like, yes, StreamYard's adding up to 10 people as well. So if we want to have 10 people on screen, great. That might mean that's less Zoom that I need to use. But the other thing you have to keep in mind, the same exact thing, the more people you add during your live streams, the more bandwidth you need. So if you are hosting that production, for example, right now, Jim is running this production. And the reason Jim is running this production is because my internet's not that great. And in this case, for Jim, it works much better. So if he were to add more people, we could support it. But if I were to add it, it would not work very well. So you do have to keep that in mind. Um, Jim, where do we go from here, by the way? I'm looking forward to these StreamYard updates, more things from them, but what's next?
Yeah. So let's see. What do we want to go to next? We've talked about
Want to go
that.
to tool time? What do you want to do?
Yeah, let's go to tool time. I think that's a good
Okay.
idea.
So
So
we're going to go over to tool time, and again, because again, we value your time. We want to make sure that we give you the main highlights from this week. And that obviously is Facebook fan subscriptions, where you can generate revenue for your business through various Facebook properties and entities. That's, the fan subscription feature, it's the stars feature, it's all the new different types of ads they're going to let you run, for example, live video ads and things like that. Obviously, StreamYard update, and Restream even added some similar features as well. They added picture in picture, keyboard shortcuts, and again, the ability to have 10 people on the screen. So we're going to move to tool time, and we're going to talk about two tools real quick. So Jim, what tool do you want to start off with?
so the first tool I think we want to talk about is, let's talk about Crello.
Okay, so what is Crello? Can you bring it
So
up for
I
people?
I will. Let's see here. I gotta.
Okay, so Jim's going to bring that up for us.
Yep. Okay. So there we go.
Okay.
So Crello
So
is similar to Canva. It's
okay,
another
Canva alternative. Okay.
Canva alternative. And I think one of those things, right? No design skills needed. And God knows I need that help because I don't consider myself a designer. So I think that's a great way for people to use that. And so there's a ton of options out there. This is just another one. I always think it's worth checking these things out. Have you had a chance to dive into Crello at all, Christian?
I have not yet, actually. I did purchase it, and it's what, $8 a month. It's free, or there's an $8 plan. And I mean, here's the thing: if I'm going to pay, like, if I need to do some design work, if I want to go hire a designer, it's going to cost a fair amount of money to do that, because designers aren't cheap. And or a good designer, let me rephrase that: a good designer is not cheap.
Right.
You can go to Fiverr, you can go to some of these other platforms, and you do have to look at what it is that you need to have done. So, for example, if it's like, let's say it's lower thirds for your live video, very easy to do. Create a 1920 by 1080 image, so 1920 by 1080 pixels. Make sure the background is transparent. Add on your lower third and upload that as an overlay, for example, in StreamYard. Makes it very easy. If I'm creating things such as Jim, I know you create a promotional, like a monthly promotional graphic.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you can create easily in Crello.
Right.
If I need something that's much more advanced, like logo design, things like that, that's where I would consider going to, a designer. So I would say, keep this tool in your back pocket for simple artworks that you would put in your social media channels, things like that. Or, if I need to have professional logos, for example, or business cards or things like that made, that's where I would consider going to a designer who can take your logo and really create a beautiful, unique business card, for example, for you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might check out the free plan. Of course, like you said, to get you can kind of see the difference here. To get those additional features, it's $7.99 a month
Yeah.
on the yearly, and then just for people that might want to pay monthly, it's $9.99. So maybe now that people aren't going out to coffee shops as much, you spent that much on coffee per day, you can maybe do a little bit of investment in your business and yourself. So I think it's
And
definitely
by the way,
worth
one last
checking.
thing about this before we switch to the other tool, and it's the fact that, you and I talk about this all the time. You can have all these different tools to help you accomplish a task. But in this case, like, what would be the value add? And I think the value add is if I'm, for example, using a tool like Canva, and I said this is a Canva alternative because a lot of people use Canva and a lot of the designs look the same, and you can easily spot them if you've ever used the platform. And that's, to me, that's a bit of a problem because it doesn't really say I have anything unique as a business. So that's where, like, maybe I use Crello and see what their designs are like, for what, $8, what's that, $100 a year?
Mm-hmm.
Not even, $96, I think, right? So I would say this, have it in your back pocket, give it a test, try it out first, see if it actually meets your needs. And if it doesn't, then go to something that does.
Right.
So what's tool number 2, Jim?
So tool number 2, let me pull it up here, is, if I'm saying it right, is Mentimeter. And
Mentimeter. So what in the world is Mentimeter?
An interactive presentation and meeting tool, which definitely something that we need to check out. Let's see if this video maybe shows us a little bit of what it looks like.
Okay, so basically what Mentimeter is doing here, and it's pretty unique actually, is that instead of somebody actually doing a presentation and they're putting this like basically a static slideshow together, Mentimeter basically is advanced PowerPoint. It lets you do, for example, a presentation and have something built in to where somebody can answer questions, for example, from the audience based on your presentation, and their stats will show on your presentation. So I think, here's the thing. I think if I'm a business, I think this is, a fantastic tool to check out if I do a lot of presentations.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that in and of itself makes it interesting, is the fact that you can have this interactivity during the presentation. Because I think what I've seen, I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of it as well in the current environment is people really are being put in a position where they got to get more creative with their presentations. And let's see what their pricing is. So they have a free plan as well, and then they have a basic. And you can also export things to Excel, but you're going to have the branding, as you can see. So the Pro is where you get to remove their branding at, and so that's. I said, is this something that you've either had a chance to see someone present, Christian, or that you've actually used yourself yet?
Yeah, I've actually have. I've actually used it at a conference. I mean, and it works great. I think it just makes the presentation much better, much more engaging. Because, for example, have you ever been in a presentation? You ask a question. It's like, hey, get somebody raise their hand, for example, about a certain thing, and when they do, a lot of times there's crickets. Because people are afraid to speak up. And I think the value here is that it helps you make more engaging presentations, but b, it helps um, make your helps you engage more with your audience. So your audience, for example, doesn't have to feel, I won't say embarrassed, because some people, for example, might not like to raise their hand during a presentation. They might like to be a little more private, and this allows them to basically respond from their mobile device and have it show up in your presentation. Obviously, uh, the fact that you do have to have internet and so forth for that, but I think it's pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I think definitely something worth taking a look at, especially if you're a presenter and you're trying to come up with ways to get beyond just the old days of PowerPoint. Not to say I know Microsoft's been making some updates to that platform as well, but there's so many ways that you can make your stuff not only more visually appealing, but I like the interactivity, the fact that the audience can, by just taking a code, you can have some questions out there, they can answer it, and you're getting that real time input. Similar to, I think we had talked about a tool last week where you could do like live polls during your live stream. So I think that's definitely the kind of thing that not just presenters but even event planners might be looking for.
Definitely. And I think that, like I said, there's a lot of value here. I think the key thing is going to be people you need to be open to trying some different things. So, for example, if you're always just using Microsoft PowerPoint for your presentation, or even Prezi or some of these other tools that just do pretty basic presentations, this allows you to actually have interactions with your audience and get them to give you feedback as well that you can leverage in your presentations. So
Awesome.
that's going to do it for tool time. Is there anything else you want to add, by the way, Jim, about this week?
No, just a lot of things going on. I think we might also have in the notes, Apple announced iOS 14. Lots of things coming out in the Apple ecosystem. Even for Mac users, you're going to have the Big Sur is going to be the next operating system. A lot of things that I'm excited to see coming out with this. Of course, it's funny for those people that are Android users. Some of these features that are coming out, people would say, "Well, as Android's had that for years,"
Yeah,
but there's also some things in there that I think. As an Apple user, I'm definitely looking forward to.
definitely. Yeah. Well, and we'll make sure that we check out. We're going to make sure we check out the uh, iOS 14 updates and see what all is there, and see if there's anything useful for you in terms of social media. So, um, Jim, you want to take us out?
I will. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a safe and happy 4th of July to all of our American viewers and everyone else. Just have a great weekend. Take care.